Yes. Welcome back to yet another episode of Quiet Storm Sports. I am your humble host, Sutton Def, and I'm with a very, very, very special guest today. Friend of the show. He's been on the show before. Actually, ironically enough, the last time I think he was on the show was right before the last time the Ravens played the Bills in the divisional round.
Yep.
So it'll be, a nice continuation on the topic of Ravens versus Bills. But I got my guy Samuel Njoku in the house from the Ravens Talk podcast. Does some work with Locked On Ravens as well with our guy Kevin Ostreicher, another friend of the show. But big shout out to our guy Samuel Njoku in the house. Round of applause for him. Clap it up.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How you doing, man? How you been?
I'm good, man. Football's back. I'm excited about it. Finally got to do some film work for the first time in a long time that actually has, real game implications. So nice to get back on it and, time to rock.
Man, I cannot wait for the first all 22 footage to come out from this Ravens versus Bills game because I know all of us Ravens content creators, especially yourself and a lot of the other film guys are going to break that down. They're going to be all over that like white on rice, like every single play because we've just been starving for football, quite frankly. That's what it feels like, right?
For sure. I have been waiting for a long time. Tired of talking about, hypotheticals and speculation. Let's just get down to the nitty gritty. Let's play some football.
Exactly. Before we dive into what we came here to talk about, which is going to be some key matchups in the Ravens versus Bills game, got to give a shout out to who's here in the live chat. I see Tila M in the house. What's going on, Tila M? That's one of our Purple Rain patrons. Their official Rain Gang member. Chris M is in the house as well. She's another one of our Purple Rain patrons. Shout out to you. I see Tim Hughes in there. D-Wiz in here. I see Taurus in here as well. What's going on, all you guys? Appreciate y'all for coming through, popping out, and joining us here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Robert Krause is in the house. Says he's loving that Humphrey jersey that I got on right now. Yes, sir. I'm really counting on my guy Marlon Humphrey to make a lot of big plays this year. I mean, and he was slept on. Let me actually go here really quick and bounce this to you, Samuel. He was not included in the top 100 players in the NFL. Marlon Humphrey was not, but he led the league in picks last season. How does that work?
I don't know. I really don't know. And this is not, 2002 where the nickelback position wasn't really, sought after. This is a league in which to be an effective offense, you really do need three quality wide receivers. And we see the way the Bengals play Jamar Chase. He doesn't stay in the X at all. They motion him around and really count on Marlon Humphrey, the Ravens do, in order to keep these opposing offenses at bay. So, yeah, he is a stalwart for that defense. I don't know. The Ravens don't really have an answer besides newly acquired Keon Martin, who's an undrafted free agent, to be that nickel corner for them. So he is a big part about what this defense does well, and he's going to be a huge part of what the Ravens do moving forward this season.
Absolutely. Just a shame still they left him off of that list, man. I'm just saying. He could have bumped somebody off of that one.
Sure.
Jing is in the house as well. What's going on, Jing? Says, hey, Sutton. Hey, Samuel. Jing's another one of our Purple Rain patrons, official Rain Gang member. Shout out to all of you guys, part of the membership community here at the Purple Rain podcast. And listen, man, the season is here. It's not right around the corner. It's not in a couple weeks. We're not 17 days away. Like I said a couple weeks ago, we are here. Tomorrow, there is real live football. Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles in the season opener. That's going to be a really good one. But our Ravens play the Buffalo Bills on Sunday night. And that's what we're here to talk about in this one. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop into what we came here to talk about. So let me go ahead and switch screens here so you guys can see what we need to talk about first. So the health report, right, between the Ravens and the Bills. This is as of today. I'm just going to run through it really quick, and then I want to get my guy Samuel's opinion on where, he's kind of feeling, where he stands and how he feels about the Ravens' current health situation. So cornerback Jair Alexander did return to practice today in limited fashion. He's been dealing with that knee for the past couple of weeks, honestly. Daniel Falele missed today with an illness. Fully expect him to play, of course. Of course, tight end Isaiah Likely did not practice with his foot. Who knows when he's going to come back? He tweeted like a little clock emoji yesterday, I guess, kind of trying to hint at maybe an early return, which will be really, really cool. Patrick Ricard also with a calf did not practice today. And that's the one that I'm really circling out of all the names on this list, Samuel. And I kind of want to get your perspective before we move on to the Buffalo Bills. What are you thinking so far about this health report? And it's only Wednesday, I know, so we got a couple more days left. What are you thinking so far about the Ravens' health situation?
Well, you kind of touched on it. Daniel Falele, illness. I expect him to play. I think he'll be out there. Isaiah Likely, he, dealing with that foot injury. I don't expect him to play. John Harbaugh did mention that he is ahead of schedule. So I would say that week 2, week 3 time frame, you could probably expect him. I think I'm circling that Lions Monday Night Football game is the potential return for Isaiah Likely, but he's definitely ahead of schedule. Expect him back prior to week 4. Pat Ricard, I think, is the name of the game, and I think I've talked about this on social media. What the Ravens do well, running the football, those crunch plays, those misdirection plays, all of that is set off by what Pat Ricard does, and he's an excellent fullback, especially for this offense. So his lack of practice and potential absence from the game is big time for this Ravens team, who looks, I believe, to try and set the tone early with the run game.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit more when we get into some of these matchup breakdowns. But Pat Ricard, like you mentioned, man, everything that the Ravens do pretty much in their run game is predicated off of Patrick Ricard catching a big block on somebody. And that's bringing up a huge hole for the likes of a Derrick Henry, for the likes of a Justice Hill, for the likes of, a Lamar Jackson in some cases as well, to get, through that second level and really hurt defenses. So hopefully that calf for Patrick Ricard, you never like to hear, a lower leg injury for any of these guys, because those can tend to linger.
Yeah.
But hopefully he will play, because we're definitely going to need him in the run game, especially early on. Again, don't want to get into it too much right now until we get into the matchup breakdowns. We're only 6 minutes in, 70 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Make sure you go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and also make sure you subscribe to the Ravens Talk podcast, which is courtesy of our friend here, Samuel Njoku, who we hope to have on. Yeah, of course, who we hope to have on multiple weeks throughout the season. I'm just kind of putting that out there now.
I'd love to be there.
Okay. Sounds good, Sam. We'll definitely want to have you back on the show, man. Love your insight on. I actually was listening to the Ravens Squad show last week, last Thursday, I believe, and like the conversations that you, Caudry, and Kevin were having. I was locked in, man. I was actually cleaning the house up because we had some company coming over last week, and I was like, let me throw on the Squad show, and like I was locked in throughout from start to finish, man. I was, the segments you guys have to the breaks, it feels very, very official. I just want to clap it up for you really quick in your platform.
Thank you so much. I see some familiar faces on your chat also who are on the show, so shout out to you guys for joining all of the Ravens content creators, because we try and do good work for you guys.
Yes, sir. And we got DWAS in the chat here, dropping the 2-piece, making it rain here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. He says the referee for the game Sunday is John Hussey. So, Samuel, this is actually something that our guy DWAS, he does every single week heading into the Ravens game. He tells us the officiating crew who's going to be there for the Ravens game, which is always appreciated, right? Always go into the game knowing who's officiating the Ravens game. So that it's always good to, have DWAS in the chat. Appreciate you, DWAS, dropping the 2-piece in there for us. But okay, let's move along here. So going down to the Buffalo Bills, right? Looking at the Bills, their health report here, also very, very interesting if you ask me. So starting it off, kicker Tyler Bass, limited in practice today with a left hip / groin injury, which is, interesting for a kicker. You know what I mean? Like you need that flexion in the hips and in the groin area, you know what I mean, in order to kick that ball, especially if you want to kick long distance, right? So I don't know how that's going to play out in terms of game time availability. I'm sure he'll end up playing. I don't think they have another kicker rostered unless they elevated somebody. But moving on from that, Christian Benford with a groin injury as well. And again, groin injuries are another one that kind of lingers around, Sam. So another thing to look at there. He was limited in practice today. Defensive tackle Dwayne Carter with an Achilles did not practice. Keon Coleman with a groin as well. Limited in practice today. Khalil Shakir with an ankle. He practiced in full. And then lastly, Tre'Davious White, former Raven, just as of last year, who was also a former Bill. So don't really know how I feel about that one, Sam. But groin injury for him. He did not practice today. So, Sam, before we get into our matchup breakdowns here, let me know how you're feeling about the Bills' health report. What are your main takeaways from this?
The Bills are thin at corner. That is my main takeaway. The Bills are thin at corner. They weren't really that deep of a secondary to begin with. Tre'Davious White's a guy who we had played some decent snaps for us, especially during that Bills game, actually. The divisional round, I was really hampering for him to replace Brandon Stevens throughout the season. Didn't happen. It is what it is. But his availability is in question. He didn't practice today, as you mentioned. Christian Benford, the other starting corner, has a groin injury. He was limited. You expect him to play, but will he be at 100%, especially against these receivers and Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, and Bateman, who are really good at misdirection and route running. So be very interesting to see what the Bills do there. It'll be very interesting to see how the Ravens play that. But those are my two main takeaways. Keon Tevon Coleman also dealing with the groin injury. Again, as you mentioned it, you don't really want to see these guys with lower injuries, and the groin injury would suffice in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see his availability for the contest. I expect him to play, but will he be at 100%? Who knows? And the Bills are going to have to try and throw that football because the Ravens are going to do their best to contain Cook.
Absolutely. And, James Cook being one of the best running backs in the NFL last year, right there with Derrick Henry. Didn't quite match him in yards, but I think they actually tied for touchdowns scored last year,
Yeah.
Derrick Henry and James Cook. So, I mean, definitely not a guy to sleep on. James Cook, of course, he just got paid. So I definitely think he's going to be coming into this game very, very motivated, right? With the full backing of Bills Mafia, who are going into their final year at Highmark. So it's going to be a very, very it's going to be quite the occasion for the Bills offense, I will say. You mentioned though, and this is where we got to go ahead and just get into the matchups here. So let me actually go ahead and change this over, share a different tab for you guys. All right, so let's take a look at some of the matchups here because you had mentioned our guy Christian Benford and Tre'Davious White, those guys being hurt.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it up on the screen here. Screen share. Hold on, having an unk moment.
Been there.
Yeah, you know how it is. You know how it is.
There it is.
All right. There we go. Okay, so looking at some of these matchups here, and this is courtesy of Pro Football Focus. They put these personnel matchups here, and I actually really, really love that. It's very, very useful, insightful going into the current week. But let's actually flip this because I think I have the Ravens on defense right here. Let me actually flip that, and let's go nickel package for let's go nickel package for them and 3 wide receivers for the Ravens here. And look at some of the matchups we got. So going here from the left to right, Tre'Davious White against, DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. Tre'Davious White, again, kind of banged up a little bit. And then on the other side, the outside corner, Christian Benford, he's banged up too. And he's got a rookie behind him going up against Rashad Bateman, who also lines up on the outside. So kind of looking at those two positions first, I really, really do understand your point, Samuel, about how those guys are going to have a really big opportunity, meaning Hopkins, Bateman, and even Zay Flowers as well, to have a big day, especially on second and longs and third and longs against the Buffalo Bills. But when you're looking at this, what do you really see? What stands out to you?
Joey Bosa, defensive end from
Yep.
Los Angeles. He is a guy. He's not the same guy he was in previous seasons, but he's still a force, and he'll be going up against Rosengarten, who is in his second year. They did a good job, the Ravens did, of keeping Rosengarten pretty much protected with chips and such from tight ends and fullbacks. So no Pat Ricard in this game to chip. He'll rely on Justice Hill and Derrick Henry along with Mark Andrews and Charlie Kohler to be those guys to help him out on the edge. If they can give Lamar Jackson time in the pocket, yeah, he's dicing this team up, especially these corners right here, especially with the receiver core of Bateman. Zay Flowers is in a mini contract year trying to prove something, and Hopkins trying to show that he's not the guy that we saw in Kansas City during his short stint there. So that matchup is a potential nightmare for the Bills. I will say that Milano, the linebacker number 58, did not play in that Week 4 contest. In the divisional round, he was available, and he was a bit of a force, especially in the first half. He was very good at penetrating at the point of attack, very aggressive at the point of attack. Andrews had a tough time dealing with him, especially in run plays. And some of the things the Ravens did, which we'll probably get into a little later in terms of run blocking and just the play calling in general, was a bit confusing considering how much success they had in Week 4.
Yeah, and my thing is here, when you talk about a linebacker like Matt Milano, who was so disruptive early in that game in the run, I was actually rewatching that game earlier today. This game is really going to come down to who sets the tone earliest, and I think that the Ravens did that in the divisional game last year by throwing that touchdown, but the run was not really working all that well in the first half at all for the Ravens. So I think the difference in this game does need to be the Ravens establishing that run game. And again, it's going to be harder, just like you said, without a Patrick Ricard to kind of run behind and use those type of schemes. And then also, again, with Matt Milano not playing in that Week 4 matchup, but playing in that divisional matchup, you see it was night and day. Running the football is going to be a task in this game, is what I'm trying to say. So I totally agree with you there. That is a very, very key matchup to look forward to. So that's actually 2 key matchups that we've covered so far. So the Bills' weak cornerback room right now, because they're so hurt and banged up. against the Ravens wide receivers, all talented wide receivers, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and DeAndre Hopkins. And then also looking at the Roger Rosengarten at that right tackle spot. Yeah, Rosengarten's a guy, you mentioned him too. Rosengarten's a guy who going into year 2, you're really going to be looking at him for growth and improvement. And in this game, he's going to be seeing a lot of Joey Bosa, and I would assume a lot of Gregory Rousseau as well, at certain times, So it's just going to be interesting to see how he holds up. I was watching some Roger Rosengarten tape the other day against the
Mhm.
Steelers, right?
Yeah,
And he was really, really good against TJ Watt.
it was.
Uh TJ Watt is probably everything you really, really want in a pass rusher. And a guy like Roger Rosengarten, I think he has the perfect kind of build to defeat and stop a TJ Watt.
Mhm.
Now, against a guy like Gregory Rousseau, against a guy like Joey Bosa, might be a little bit more difficult because I feel like those guys have a little bit more power moves, and I feel like he might struggle with that a little bit more. So I definitely get your point there with Roger Rosengarten.
Yep. And one thing to note again, the week 4 matchup, what the Ravens did really well, a lot more read option, a lot more misdirection. The Bengals, I'm sorry, the Bills they needed to, just be aggressive at the point of attack, penetrate that way. And it was successful because the Ravens played into that success a lot. So I think that what the Ravens need to do is go back to that misdirection, read option, those crunch plays, pulling the guard, getting things going that way. No, not a lot of stretch, but more just inside the tackles with Derrick Henry, use his size and really take advantage of these smaller guys that they have in the second level of their defense.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. If Derrick Henry can get to that second level again, it's going to be absolutely just curtains. And I think that's
Yep.
that's exactly what Buffalo has to stop. That has to be the game plan for them going into this. I rewatched the first play, the very first play of that divisional round matchup, and you could just tell everybody in the stadium knew the ball was going to go to Derrick Henry, right? And you could see the linebackers literally falling forward, right? Before the play even starts, so they can get to the line of scrimmage and not allow him to get to that second level. So again, man, if some of those big guys down low, again, it's going to be a lot on guys like Andrew Voorhees, of course, Ronnie Stanley, Linderbaum as well for Lele. If they can create some lanes for him and get him into that second level, then man, it's going to be a long night for Buffalo. But we will see. We do have a super chat donation here. This one's coming from the Don. What's going on, Don? Here, dropping
Um,
5 pieces in the chat, man, making it rain here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. So we appreciate you, brother. Says Sutton Samuel, what's up, guys? Samuel, this is the 6th different podcasts I've seen you on today, putting in the work. I love it. Really, the 6th different one? You've been on some other ones today?
yeah, I've been everywhere today, and I'm planning on being on a couple of more shows this week. And I haven't got a chance to do my podcast because it's been such a busy week because it's Ravens week,
Yeah,
man. I'm excited.
it's
So if you see
Ravens
me in my
week.
face, it's because football's coming, baby. So very excited. Thanks so much, Don.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, we appreciate having you here, man. We know you're a busy man. We know you're, of course, again, going on all these different channels. You've got your own podcast to worry about, and I know how that can be. So again, we appreciate you for coming on here.
Not a problem. Loving it.
And thank you, Don. Thank you, Don, for your super chat donation. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here to the next. Let's actually flip the. So here's what we'll do. We'll put the Bills in their base defense, and we'll go what we normally run with, which is 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and see how
Mhm.
we kind of stack up on these early down plays, which I imagine it'll look a little bit like this personnel-wise, right, Sam?
Yeah, I would say more 22 personnel, uh maybe we'll have Lucas Scott at fullback on some regards, but I think this is the setup. 2 tight ends, 2 receiver set, 1 running back. So I'm feeling this one. 21 personnel seems like the way to go.
Yeah, same here, same here. The only thing I'm looking at though is again the right side of that offensive line. I'm looking at a Daniel Falele, I'm looking at a Roger Rosengarten, and in these instances, going up against an Ed Oliver and a Gregory Rousseau, who are both top 20 guys at their positions, right, respectively. I'm not exactly sure if the Ravens are going to be running a whole lot to the right. So what you said before with the misdirections and the zones and things like that, you're going to see a lot of that in this game, trying to get them to go, I think, to the left side of the field.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's what they actually did to open up the game in the divisional round as well. They ran to the left, and they still got it shut down because a guy like Matt Milano, who you see up there, number 58, was right there to kind of plug that hole. So again, I'm looking at that left guard spot. I'm looking at the entire offensive line, right? But I feel like the left guard spot, Andrew Voorhees, he's going to have a lot on his plate kind of clearing a pathway for a Derrick Henry or for whoever's running the ball between the tackles. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, and I think that we're going to see Ravens fans are going to get a treat with Voorhees because I think that he's going to be an upgrade in that left guard spot. Patrick McCurry, swing tackle guy, really good, but there's a reason why the Ravens
Yeah.
felt confident letting him go, and that's because Voorhees, especially in that Browns game, took a step up. McCurry didn't play because I think he was sick or something like that, and he played so well. I thought that there was a chance that Voorhees could play in the Bills game. That's how much of a factor he was against the Steelers, and in some instances, but mostly during that Browns Week 18 game. So I think that Voorhees is going to be very good. Expect a lot of pulling from Falele. Falele is going to have to go ahead and set that block on the edge. I think Charlie Kohler is going to be a big factor because Isaiah Likely is a really good run blocker last year for this team, and not having him is a problem. But I do expect the Ravens to overload the left side. It's what they do very well. The Bills know it, so they're going to have to try and be aggressive in that regard as well. And that could give Lamar Jackson some time with those read option looks, RPOs, to really take advantage of that defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always kind of pick your poison when it comes to facing the Ravens offense, right? Because, the run pass options and everything that Lamar just kind of threatens in the first couple of seconds of each play, it keeps defenses literally on their heels, right? You don't know where the ball is going until the ball is going, quite literally, in one direction in a very fast manner. So, it's going to be very interesting to see how Todd Monken comes out and calls this game so early in the year. We know a lot of offensive coordinators and coaches in general don't like to really show their hand, right? In the early parts of the season, they kind of like to save some of the more exotic stuff for later on in the season where they really, really need it, or maybe even the playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see for a week one matchup how this game is going to go. I think it's going to be literally body on body, a lot of brute force, and just kind of like imposing the will on the Bills defense. If the Ravens are to win, I think that they have to stick with the run game early and often, and just, wait until they get going, because in the divisional round, the running game got going in the third quarter. Right.
Yeah.
There was a drive where the Ravens ran like every single play. It was like 11 plays and like they went 70 yards for a touchdown. The Bills absolutely could not stop it. I feel like if the Ravens can get that momentum early in this game, it would be again, like I said before, curtains for the Bills defense. Now, I want to ask you this, Sam. I want to before we flip the Ravens to defense, give
Mhm.
me one bold prediction for the Ravens offense going into this Bills game. Don't mean to put you on the spot like this, but I kind of
That's
do.
cool. I like it. I like it. I think this could be a big game for Rashad Bateman. I think that Rashad Bateman
Yes, let's
has
go.
been showing out in training camp. I think the lack of Isaiah Likely the last couple of weeks has really forced the Ravens to feature him more. So there's plays, at least that's what I've been hearing from sources from the castle, that have been designed specifically for Bateman in mind. So he could take clear advantage of a secondary that's a little bit, limping into this week one matchup. So if I was a betting man, I would say Bateman might have a good chance to go off, especially if the Bills are selling out to stop the run as they did in that week, that division round in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna go out and say it right now. Give me a Rashad Bateman touchdown Sunday Night Football against the Bills. You want to know
I
why?
like it.
Because Rashad Bateman is a legitimate threat from any point on the field. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's not just over slants and just deep routes all the time like it was early on in his career. He's kind of put every single thing together. And not everything, and on top of that, Lamar Jackson actually trusts Rashad Bateman a lot more. Their chemistry is better than ever. Like you mentioned before, Rashad Bateman really good in training camp, chemistry growing with Lamar Jackson. I think you're going to see that in a big way in this game, especially like we also mentioned. The
Yes.
Bills having a very weak DB room at the moment with those injuries. So I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman. I fully, wholeheartedly agree with you. Give me Rashad Bateman for a touchdown. He may not get over 100 yards receiving, but
Yeah.
I do got him getting a touchdown in that red zone, man. He's just so dangerous, and he's not going to be, the most focused on guy. It's going to be a Mark Andrews. It's going to be a Zay Flowers down low. But Rashad Bateman, as we've seen so many times, finds his way open in the back of the end zone, in the middle of the end zone against the Cowboys, wherever. And again, he can also catch the deep ball too. So I love that prediction, Sam. I really do. I really do.
Yes. Like I can't
All right.
wait. I think he's going to be it.
I cannot wait for Sunday night, man. I cannot wait. Over at the Purple Rain podcast here, we are huge Rashad Bateman truthers. So we will we'll continue to put on from him. So that was a beautiful answer from you. Let's go ahead and switch this now to the Ravens being on defense. And we'll go in the same, let me see, nickel Ravens defense versus three wide receiver set for the Bills here. Let's go ahead and take stock of the injuries that we saw. So Khalil Shakir, He had something going on, but he practiced in full today. Coleman was limited, I believe. And then you've got Joshua Palmer over there, who the Bills just acquired this offseason, up against Nate Wiggins up top. So when you're looking at this, what is a key matchup that you see between this Ravens, basically third down defense with an extra corner on the field, and this Bills third down offense?
I am thinking that Travis Jones may have himself a big day. I think that the
Okay.
interior of the Bills' offensive line, decent enough, but I think Travis Jones has shown something and can't be. It seems like he's always getting better, and they're going to need Travis Jones to get that interior pressure. If they do so, then Matabike doesn't get that double team. That means that Odafe Owe, Van Noy, and Mike Green get chances to pin their ears back and go. They're going to really need to stop the run as well. So getting that penetration interiorly will help with containing James Cook. And if it's third down and you got Josh Allen, you know you have some decent pass rushers at least that can go after Josh Allen. But it starts in the middle with Matabike and Travis Jones, and I think Jones may have himself a day.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's another guy who, when I was looking over these matchups earlier, and I think somebody just said it in the chat as well. Yeah, Jeremiah W says major key is number 98. He absolutely is. And just to kind of
Yeah.
give you a little bit of context here on this matchup that he's got, he is going to be standing over the left guard, David Edwards, pretty frequently, who scored a 66.1 PFF grade as a left guard last year, 28th out of 77 guards who were ranked. So decent ranking there. And then you've got Connor McGovern at center, who I assume will be helping out a lot there too. A little bit better ranking for him. So, but I think that Travis Jones is another one of those guys who a lot of like national media, they really, really sleep on, right? Because you've got Nnamdi Madubuike already there who's making the big dollars, right, at that same similar position. But Travis Jones is a guy who, when Nnamdi Madubuike was catching all those double teams last year, Travis Jones was still dominating, right? He dominates in games, he dominates in training camps, he dominates in regular practices. The guy is just an animal, and he was playing on a bum ankle last year. So I think going into this year with him being healthy, you're going to see a lot more dangerous Travis Jones, a guy who's probably going to be forcing a lot of interior pressure, which is something that's going to be so important for the Ravens, forcing turnovers, which is a little bit of me alluding to what my bold prediction will be for the Ravens defense in this one. But we do have 153 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for coming out to
Wow.
this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. We appreciate y'all for coming through. Got our guy Samuel Njoku in the house. We're having a great time here breaking down these key matchups between the Ravens and the Bills Sunday night football game. Let me see. Jeremiah W says the national media knows. I don't think they do, bro. I don't think they do. I have never heard a national media member say anything about a Travis Jones, hardly even a Nnamdi Madubuike. I know those guys, those interior D linemen, don't really get a whole lot of attention, a whole lot of shine, because you got to look at the skill players around them. But the game is one in the trenches, so I wish that the national media would give guys like Travis Jones more recognition. But hey, keep him slept on. Keep him slept on. Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and see what else we got here. Let me put the Ravens in their base defense here. And let me put I don't think the Bills necessarily run a whole lot of 12 personnel. I could be wrong there. I'm not exactly sure. What do you think about that?
I don't think so. I think they might try and test Trent Simpson a little bit here. He's a guy that was put on the bench after a so-so outing as the inside linebacker across from Roquan Smith. They might test him a little bit. This will be a big game for Trenton Simpson to see whether or not he's showing up. He didn't really flash too much in preseason, but in training camp we heard that he was doing pretty good. We'll see what happens. The Ravens do play a lot of nickel dime packages. I think that's what will happen in this game, especially if the Ravens get off to an early lead. But I think running the football will be imperative for the Bills to keep the Ravens off of the field, one, and two, to test to see if they got the mental toughness. Remember, you mentioned it in the first half of that divisional round. The Ravens got beat up the middle. I mean,
Yeah.
throughout the trenches, the Ravens were being dominated on both sides of the ball. It wasn't until the second half when the Ravens started to enforce their will upon the Bills. So it might be a case where the Bills try this personnel, see what the Ravens got, and then adjust from there. But Trent Simpson is another guy who might want to be kept an eye on for Ravens fans as he tries to get his job and keep it across from Roquan Smith.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that you're going to be looking for Trenton Simpson is his pass coverage, right? Kind of knowing where to be instinctually, things like that, because he's going to be seeing, I think, a lot of Dalton Kincaid coming across the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to find that soft spot in zones for Josh Allen to throw him the ball. So if Trenton Simpson can be all over that, like take that away, do you know what that would do for the rest of the defense? Like Trenton Simpson, I always like to say linebackers, right? They're kind of like they're the meat in the middle of the sandwich, right? So you got your secondary, who your guys in the back end. That's one slice of the bread. Then the other half of the bread is your guys on the on the defensive line, right? The big guys. But then in the middle there, you've kind of got these guys and linebackers who have multiple roles, multiple responsibilities, and that's what Trenton Simpson has got to focus on, kind of knowing his role on each and every play. Each and every play is going to be different, especially against a high level team like the Bills, who are very, very well coached. So Trenton Simpson, I know they're going to pick on him. I know they're probably going to pick on, honestly, a Malachi Starks as well. I could see them going at Malachi Starks. I was talking to Coach Evans, Sip to Tally Film. Shout out to him. I was talking to him the other day, or actually the other week.
Yeah,
And he was saying like he can see some teams, taking some deep shots early on the likes of a Malachi Starks, just him being a rookie. And because when you look at this defense, Sam, who do you really pick on, right? It's got to be Malachi Starks. It's got to be the young guy,
gotta
right?
be, gotta be. And the Ravens need to do a good job of one, either using that to your advantage and kind of baiting teams into a bad situation, or trusting him to get the job done. I'm thinking about not the Bills game, the Bengals game in a few weeks, where the Bengals do a really good job of isolating safeties with the motioning of both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So there may be a time where you want to take a deep shot at Malachi, see if you're ready for the bright lights. Your first game ever as a rookie is Sunday Night Football. Maybe the Bills do the same with Joshua Palmer. Maybe Khalil Shakir, if he's healthy enough, gets the deep shot, and you test your safety group, who struggled last year mightily in the first part of the season. But I think Malachi Starks is a smart DB. He understands what the opposing offense is doing. He understands what's being asked of the defense. I'm not too concerned, but yes, if there's one guy on the secondary you want to take a shot at, it's for sure the rookie Malachi Starks.
Yes, and I can see Josh Allen, threatening the deep ball in this one very, very early to kind of stress test that defense, and
Yep.
hopefully Malachi Starks kind of stands up to that. Hamilton, I assume, will probably be a little bit closer to the box. The Ravens like to use him a little bit closer down low, and I think that Malachi Starks, being like you mentioned, a very smart safety coming out of Georgia, first round pick, we're going to be looking at him to kind of hold down that back end. So expect it to be tested early. I absolutely agree with you there. All right, let's give our biggest predictions, our boldest predictions for the Ravens defense. And you know what, Samuel, on this one, I'll start. I'll start. So to give you a second to kind of get yours in mind.
I already know
But
mine. I hope you don't steal
oh, you
mine.
do? Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead. Go.
I alluded to mine earlier, right? So turnovers, right? And I want everybody to listen closely. I've mentioned this multiple times on this very podcast. This is a real stat. The team that wins the turnover battle wins the NFL game 79.8% of the time. So basically 80% of the time. So basically, I could take a game. I could blindfold myself, not watch any football, right, for the entire day. And I could go through the schedule after the games have already been completed, blindfolded, right? And I could say, okay, in this matchup, who won the turnover battle? And I could do that for every single game, and I would get 80% of my picks right, just based off of who won the turnover battle. That is going to be it's a honestly kind of like this game is like a microcosm of the Ravens' bigger issues, right? The Bills are obviously like one of the quote unquote boogeyman teams for the Ravens, right? And I'm not afraid to say that as a Ravens fan. It's the Bills, it's the Chiefs. There's a mental blockage somewhere in there that the Ravens are facing right now. And I feel like the remedy to that mental blockage is creating and forcing turnovers. The man whose jersey I'm wearing currently, number 44, Marlon Humphrey, he mentioned this. He actually tweeted this from his own X account that, basically saying in so many words, the Ravens have to start creating more turnovers. Zach Orr said the same thing. And my bold prediction for this game, Samuel, is that the Ravens come out and they force 3 turnovers on the Bills. I think they come out with their hair on fire. I think that Trenton Simpson and Roquan Smith are glued to the middle of the field early on, forcing Josh Allen to go to places he doesn't necessarily want to go. And I feel like you get some tip balls at the line of scrimmage. I feel like you get some strip sacks. Wink, wink, maybe an Adafe Owe, maybe a Mike Green, who we can see rotationally, obviously, in this first game. But give me 3 turnovers for the Ravens and kind of righting that wrong and proving that, yes, against the biggest teams, we can turn them over. We can dominate this football game, because I'm tired. I'm sick and tired. Before I toss it to you, Sam, I'm sick and tired of the Ravens losing close games that they should have gotten blown out because of the amount of turnovers that they had. Ravens turned the football over twice Oh, 3 times. I'm sorry. 3 times in
Hmm.
that divisional game, right? But only lost by 2 points. Do you know how that ridiculous that sounds, Samuel?
It's
That
ridiculous.
it's insane. You're supposed to get blown out if you turn the football over 3 times and you don't force any yourself. You're supposed to get blown out. So in this one, I think they come out with their hair on fire, really set the tone for the season, and force 3 turnovers as a defense. So with that being said, I'm gonna let you take it away, Sam. What is your biggest, boldest prediction from this defense in this game?
You kind of stole my thunder. I was going to say that Nate Wiggins was going to get himself a pick six in this game. I think that the
Ooh.
Ravens are going to be going after it pretty heavily. But I'll do one better. Let's go bold and say that Mike Green has 2 sacks in this game. I think they, rotationally speaking, Odafe Owe and Van Noy, start putting pressure on the outside of this offensive line, and then Mike Green comes in and cleans it up on those passing situations and gets after Josh Allen. I think he's going to be one of the few guys that I think I'm confident that can get Josh Allen down and keep him down in this game. So give me Mike Green for 2 sacks in his rookie debut.
Mike Green for 2 sacks. And see, that's my thing about the whole Mike Green sacks, especially in these early games, man. It's just, I don't know how soon the Ravens are going to take the training wheels off of a guy like Mike Green.
Yeah.
What is going to be his snap count in this game? If I had to set like an over under line for how many snaps this guy is going to play in game one against the Bills, I honestly don't know what I would set it at, but I don't think we're going to see him in enough spots for him to get 2+ sacks. Now I hope that happens, and that's exactly why it's a bold prediction.
Yeah.
I don't see us necessarily, like, in realistic world with how good the Bills are, I don't really see us getting 3 turnovers, but it's a bold prediction for that very reason. So I love that.
Exactly.
Hopefully, I mean, honestly, what I would like more, to be quite honest with you, Sam, is if yours came true. If Mike Green had 2 sacks in his debut, do you know what that would mean for, the implications for the rest of this season in the defense? It would mean that, okay, the Ravens have a star pass rusher now, a legitimate star pass rusher to go in tandem with a star-studded secondary, and then some very, very low-key but really, really good guys down low on the defensive line, and Matabike, Travis Jones, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
So, because that was the only missing piece, right? And with edge rusher being such a premium position, if he were to get 2+ sacks in this game and impactful sacks, that would mean the world to Ravens fans. And actually, let me throw you this really quick, Sam.
Okay.
And I know we're going to go ahead and let you go here in a second. But Kyle Van Noy, I don't know if you heard on his podcast where he mentioned Mike Green. He was calling him Michael Green. He
Yeah.
said you gotta prove something. You got to get some sacks and some big moments, right? And I kind of thought to myself, I was like, I love Kyle Van Noy. Top 5 in sacks last year at 12.5. Has played really, really well for the Ravens, but I don't really see Kyle Van Noy getting a whole lot of sacks in crunch time when you really, really need him. So, like, that comment about Mike Green, it was kind of like, yeah, I mean, I get that totally. I would love to see Mike Green, get his in some big moments, but I would also love to see the likes of Kyle Van Noy and hell, even Odafe Owe get
Yeah.
some pressure and get these guys on the ground when you need it the most. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I just need some consistency out of those guys. They
Yeah.
got the sacks, but just get it on a consistent basis. Win your one-on-ones on a consistent basis, and good things will happen.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see. Jeremiah W says here, 99 gonna shine. I hope so. I really, really do hope so, to be honest with
Contract
you.
year.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and leave it there for this matchup breakdown segment of the show. I gotta let my guy Samuel go here. We're on a little bit of a time constriction here, but hopefully we have a little bit more time next time. I want him back on the show. He's one of my favorite guests to have on. So big shout out to you, Samuel. Thank you so much again for coming on.
Appreciate you. Get me on very soon. Maybe after the Bills game, we chop it up a little bit about the Ravens game.
Sounds good, brother. And make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to the Ravens Talk podcast. And then also make sure that you see what they're doing on the Locked On Ravens podcast channel as well. A lot of good work over there. Shout out to our guy, Kevin Ostreicher, again, who's doing a good job with that. But again, man, big shout out to our guy, Samuel Njoku. Let's go ahead and clap it up for him one more time.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But all right, man. Have a good one, man. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Alrighty. Peace.
All right. So we are back here. Still about 170 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming through. I just want to touch on a couple more things before I get out of here. Right? Let me see. Actually, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat first. Manuel's Gaming Channel. Shout out to you. What's going on, man? Let me see here. Let me actually switch this back. Yeah, so let's talk. Let's talk, right? I got my guy Manuel's Gaming Channel in the house here. Says Sutton, bold prediction. Jackson, 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns, and Starks and Nate with interceptions. One of them a pick six. Would love to see that. Again, they're going to be going at Starks. I mean, just so you know. Just so you know, they will be going at Malachi Starks, I think early, I think often. On those third downs, you're definitely going to see a lot of that. You're definitely going to see a lot of that. Let me see. Thank y'all for coming through to this episode, by the way, too. We're going to be doing this Quiet Storm Sports, of course, throughout the season. Don C says, can't wait. Got his popcorn ready. Me neither, bro. Me neither. Torres says, thank you. Finally, some KVN accountability. Yeah, man, I don't know. Kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I was like, you haven't necessarily been the most productive, when we've needed you, right? But those 1 p.m. CBS first quarter, second quarter sacks, yeah, he's there. Early third quarter, yeah, for sure, for sure. But okay, let me go ahead and thank you, Don, saying the number 44 Marlowe jersey looks clean. Let me go ahead and get into a couple of other topics I wanted to get into tonight. I don't see what's up in the chat. What's going on in the chat? What's going on in the chat? Appreciate y'all for coming through, man. Love the Ravens community, man. Don't you guys just love how the Ravens community, like the YouTubers, the podcasters, all the content creators in the space can just kind of come together and just collaborate just whenever, wherever. Like it's really cool. We've had multiple really great guests on the show. And I promise I'm getting to the next segment in a second here, but just want to give a shout out to the Ravens community, the content creators and the watchers as well, the viewers, all of you guys who are watching, and all of you guys who I know are going to be locked in during the season. We appreciate you guys just on the behalf of not only just me, on the behalf of my co-host Alex, on the behalf of the entire Ravens content creators community. Shout out to you guys. We love you guys. We couldn't do any of this without you. Like none of it. On some real stuff. We cannot do any of this without you. It wouldn't even, it wouldn't make sense to do without you guys. So we appreciate you guys. And, honestly, big shout out to everybody who's rocked out during the entire off season, because you're about to get a lot of people, and we love these people too. You're gonna have a lot of people who are gonna be tuned into the shows now because football season is officially back. So there's actually stuff to talk about, real game stuff to talk about week in, week out, and we love you guys too. But for everybody who's rocking out with us over the off season, big shout out to you. Going into the season is gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's talk about NFL Red Zone really quickly, right? I kind of wanted to bring this up. Obviously not a Ravens related topic necessarily, but I wanted to bring up NFL Red Zone and what you guys thought about that. The whole them going from 7 hours of commercial free football to actually having commercials with Red Zone now. What do you guys think about that? To me, I don't think, and Pat McAfee came out earlier today and said he doesn't think people are going to be really upset about that. I think there's some truth to that, but I also think that fans, of course, they value Red Zone being 7 hours of literal commercial free football, not missing a single thing for anything. But again, what Pat McAfee is saying, like, football is right around the corner. Football fans have been starving for football for 6 months now, right? So I think that they're kind of just going to say, all right, whatever, we'll still watch Red Zone. It doesn't really matter. As my dog here is kind of complaining, whining and complaining. Jeremiah says he doesn't like it. Chris M says she hates it. I see somebody says rip Stream East. It's also very, very convenient that they did this the day that Stream East gets taken down. You know what I mean? But I read a report earlier coming from Ari Myrov that kind of gave a little bit more context to the situation, right? Let me actually go ahead and bring that up and read that here. Let me see what it says. So ads are coming to NFL Red Zone. Again, this is from Ari Myrov at My Sports Update. He says, here's more detail. They will appear in a double box format. Viewers will hear the ad audio while Red Zone continues to run in the other box. The plan is to space out a limited number of ads throughout the 7+ hour period. So and it also goes on to say the NFL says this has been contemplated and tested for over a year and has nothing to do with ESPN. Don't really know how much I agree with that. But I will say that's a lot better having a side by side box, right? Because that's basically what they were doing last year, right? Like you would have like football on this corner, and then on the other corner there'd be an ad, but you would actually still hear the audio from football. So basically, it's just going to be flipped now. You're going to hear the audio from the ad, but you're still going to see visually what's going on Red Zone, which does take away from it because you kind of rely on Scott Hansen's commentary to kind of guide you through all of these games. Like honestly, the one thing I do hate about Red Zone, and let me know if you guys agree in the chat, the one thing I've always hated about Red Zone is that it's just overstimulating, right? It's overstimulating. It's a lot of fun to watch. Yes, you don't miss any of the highlight plays. You see the best of every single game, right? Especially in that 1 p.m., that huge 1 p.m. window where there's a bunch of games, right? It's just overstimulating, you know. And I think when you take out the audio from it, it completely makes it like just impossible almost to follow, right? Because you're kind of relying on again Scott Hansen to kind of guide you through the games that you're watching because you're seeing so much. It's just so hard to keep up with. It's damn near impossible to keep up with, especially with everybody's attention span being where it is in 2025, right? So I don't know. I don't know. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, we got another super chat donation. I didn't even see this one. This one's coming from the Don. What's going on, Don? Appreciate you again for dropping another 5 piece in the chat. He says, Sutton, your thoughts on the Raja Jackson and that horrible mess. Yeah, I guess I can talk about that for a little bit. 170 people watching live. Thank you so much for coming out to the show. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, or follow if you're watching on X. But yeah, this Raja Jackson situation. I think I talked about it last week when that news kind of first dropped. But in short, I think that everybody has a little bit of blame in this situation. Obviously, most of the blame is going to go towards Roger Jackson for the just horrendous shit he did in that boxing ring or that wrestling ring, right? Hitting Psycho Stu 22, 23 times in a row after he was already unconscious after a slam because you were so upset and you were so mad that he slammed a beer can over your head and like kind of like doing like a wrestling bit, right? Kind of like, obviously faking it and everything like that, but Roger Jackson not being a professional wrestler and him being an actual MMA fighter whose dad's name is Rampage, right? Who he honestly has a weird relationship with his dad as well. Has actually fought his dad before. Rampage Jackson told that story. So there's clearly, I don't want to say some loose screws, but there's some loose screws, right? Because most reasonable human beings, if you're showing up streaming, right? If you're streaming yourself in real life, as they like to call it, IRL streams, and you're showing up to a pro wrestling event, and the cameras are going on behind you, yeah, I mean, somebody might do something a little bit unorthodox. Somebody might do something unexpected, and I think that that's where it kind of gets dangerous, mixing in this kind of like spontaneous streamer IRL culture with MMA fighters, right? Because a lot of MMA fighters they don't play. You know what I mean? Like pro wrestling is for play. Obviously those guys are supreme athletes themselves, but pro wrestling for the most part is for play. But MMA is not. It's real. It's all 100% real deal. So I don't think that it works. You can't mix those two things because you kind of have to be willing to take things with a grain of salt as a streamer. But as an MMA fighter who might have some sort of anger issues or something going on, again, I don't want to say loose screws, but that's what it obviously feels like. You kind of have to curb your expectations for those guys, right? You can't have those guys, be in those type of situations because they can go left or south very, very fast. Very, very fast. Um, Tori says streamers are odd in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. Streamers are odd because again, man, you're just kind of faking it all feels very fake. And I know it's entertaining to a lot of people. Hell, some streamers are entertaining to me, but a lot of it feels fake, right? And again, when you try to mix that fake aspect with something as real as an MMA fighter, I don't think it really works out. I don't think those two things mix very well. I just don't. Manuel's Gaming Channel says, Sutton, do you think Gervonta will knock Jake Paul or will it be all for show? So, no, I don't think he's going to knock out Jake Paul. I think what happens in this fight is exactly what happened in the Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather fight. Uh, in being that, you're going to have Jake Paul go into this fight, right? He's obviously way bigger than Gervonta Tank Davis, but Tank Davis will probably still be favored to win. It's an exhibition, but I think what you're going to see in this fight is Jake Paul have one significant moment, right? Early on in the fight, maybe where he catches Gervonta Tank Davis, he throws a bunch of wild punches to try to get him out of there, kind of like how Logan Paul did against Floyd Mayweather. But then after the smoke kind of settles on that, or whatever that looks like, you're going to see Gervonta Tank Davis just kind of dominate him technically for the remainder of the rounds. I'm not exactly sure how many rounds this fight is supposed to be, but if I had to guess, that's how that fight is going to go. I don't see Jake Paul knocking him out. I think it's just going to be, one big moment for Jake Paul for the to clip up and for the clicks and for the likes and views and things like that. And then after that, you're going to see Tank Davis in a very boring fashion just kind of coast to a unanimous victory. That's even if they officially declare a winner for this one, because I don't think that they did for the Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather fight. I could be wrong on that though. Let me see. Tank. He says Tank is taking the fall. I don't see him taking the fall, bro. I don't see Tank taking the fall. I think that Tank, he is, of course, he wants this big payday. He wants this huge payday, but I don't think he's willing to necessarily take the fall for it, right? I think they can both make a ton of money just by going out there and executing it exactly how I just said. Jake Paul having one big moment, and then for the rest of it, just Tank Davis just kind of showing why there's levels to boxing, right? And we'll all leave that event we won't leave that event thinking like that was a great, you know, way to spend our time. I just don't see that happening. But it's for the money because everybody's going to tune in anyway. I believe it's on Netflix, so you're going to have a lot of viewers watching it just because. Just because. Let me see what else you guys are saying here. Mental health awareness, always, always, Chris M. Always. All right. I had one or two more things I wanted to talk to you guys about before I got out of here. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've live streamed. I actually had family over not too long ago. They left, so now I'm back on my streaming tip. Of course, the season starts tomorrow. I will be live with Alex tomorrow. We're gonna have a big show, big preview show for the Ravens versus Bills. We're gonna be getting into our match, our keys to victory. Right, we're gonna get into, of course, the injury report. We're gonna get into the Purple Rain Parlay segment as well, the very first one of the season, and of course our Purple Rain Picks segment, where we break down every single NFL game from the week and give our picks and predictions on who is going to win. Those have always been a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss it. If you are new here to the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Also, make sure you hit that notification bell because you're not going to miss whenever we go live. Again, this is the Quiet Storm Sports Podcast. It's going to be live pretty much daily, covering Ravens content and then also everything else going around in the sports world as well that I find interesting or that you guys find interesting. I love when you guys send me questions as well. So make sure you do that. But make sure you stay locked into the channel by hitting that notification bell and hitting that subscribe button as well. And then like the video because that helps us out a ton over here. Absolute ton. All right. Oh yeah, the last thing that I kind of want to talk about here today was Lamar Jackson and this challenge, right? That apparently his mom is giving to him. So apparently, Lamar Jackson's mom issues a challenge to Lamar to be as vocal as he was when he played in like his grade school days or something like that. To be a vocal leader more so than just like a leader by example on the field. Because we know now, up to this point in his career, Lamar Jackson has been a guy who literally just leads by example. Straight up, he does not, really get in guys' faces, hold guys accountable, things like that. He's just like, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna be the best Lamar Jackson I can be on the field, and the rest just has to fall into place. And I think that him changing that approach and tweaking it just slightly, ever so slightly, right? To the point where guys kind of like, I don't want to say like fear Lamar, but have more of a healthy fear and respect for Lamar Jackson as your tenured quarterback, as your guy who is, obviously can take you to the highest of highs. I mean, you see Lamar Jackson's potential. Uh, you see his production, right? His potential turn production over the years. Obviously, this guy can win you a Super Bowl, and I think he will. But I do think that he needs to be a little bit more of a vocal leader and kind of take on that role because we've seen the Ravens teams in the past, with like the Ray Lewis led teams, Ed Reed led teams, those guys were vocal leaders on their team, and they were actually leaders on the field too. Because you got to have both. You got to have both. You got to be a leader on the field with your play, and you got to be a leader in the huddle, in the locker room, things like that, mentally kind of galvanizing the troops, things like that. So personally, I want to see Lamar Jackson in the middle of a lot more pregame huddles this season. I want to see him hyping the guys up, breaking the huddles, doing all the breakdowns, things like that. That's what I want to say. And Taurus, I believe Lamar said she said that. It was something that I saw on the Ravens Vault channel the other day. Shout out to them, by the way. Shout out to Bobby and Sarah. They do a great job over there. Got to get them on the show soon. But yeah, again, he needs to be a lot more vocal. Don says we need Tila M to be more vocal. That's hilarious. Shout out to you guys in the chat, man. Tanja Bowman in the house. What's going on? Tanja says, I like that Lamar Jackson because in that Texans game when he was mad, the O-line all of a sudden came out second half playing like they should have had the whole time. That's a good point. That's a good point. Very, very good point. And I see you, Chris. You gotta head out. Appreciate you for coming through, Chris M, as you always do, always supporting. We appreciate you. We'll see you in the next one. But yeah, I like that Lamar Jackson because in that this is a good point. I think that somebody has to step up. Somebody has got to step up and be the guy. And I think Lamar actually kind of showed a little bit of that last season. He showed a little bit of it last season. But I think he needs to turn it up just a few more notches to get to that point where, it's kind of like that Tom Brady level, right? Because Tom Brady, the guys around him had a very, very healthy fear and respect for Tom Brady. And it wasn't just because of what he was able to do on the field. Of course, he was an amazing quarterback, but it was the mental side of things as well. He was not afraid to get in your face. He was not afraid to hold you accountable on the sideline. None of that, And not to say that Lamar Jackson is, I just think he doesn't right now. So Lamar Jackson's mom kind of issuing him the challenge to like, hey, get back to some of that, right? Get back to kind of like getting in guys' faces and telling them off when you need to, right? Whenever necessary, because that's what's going to kind of, I think, callous this team and make them more mentally tough and ready for those big games in the playoffs. I think I heard multiple Ravens today say in pressers that, they're ready for the season. They're not feeling any pressure. Guys like Mark Andrews says that, he's not thinking about the playoff game against the Bills last season because he's a pro, which I have my own opinions on because if you are a pro, then, why didn't you speak at the post-game press conference after that loss against the Bills? Excuse me. But that's another story for another day. But I just think that, of course, the Ravens already know regular season, no pressure. They're going to go out there. They're probably going to play really well. But in January, when it matters most, when it's win or go home, the Ravens have this mental block right now that I think can only be kind of remedied by Lamar Jackson being a much more vocal leader. Kind of like how I was saying earlier. Your best player has to be the most vocal guy. I think for us, that's what we're missing because you don't really get that kind of vibe from John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh is like a CEO type of coach. I don't necessarily think guys would wake up and want to run through a wall naturally for John Harbaugh. Haven't spoke to any guys about that, but it doesn't really feel that way if you guys catch my drift. In terms of other vocal leaders on the team, Roquan Smith has been another vocal leader, but he's kind of like on and off with his vocal leadership and his play sometimes. Lamar Jackson's really the only guy. And I'm also looking at a Kyle Hamilton to potentially be another guy like that as well. I think he needs to step up with him being one of the higher paid guys on the squad as well now too. Needs some of that. Needs some more fire out of him. But Lamar Jackson's the main one, of course, 2-time MVP. Should have been 3 times MVP. Might get his 3rd one this season. He needs to be the guy and take that next step because he's already at the pinnacle. I think he's in his prime right now. He's at the pinnacle of his physical abilities, I want to say. And like, he just needs to kind of develop that mental side of the game a little bit more to help his team out in that way. That's what I'll say. That's what I'll say. Let me see. Get any final comments from you guys in here? January hit likely not Mandrew's keys to victory. Yeah, man. I totally understand that. I was thinking to myself the other day, right? I was thinking like, why in that divisional game, after Likely scores a touchdown on a deep ball from Lamar Jackson to get the chance to tie the game, why do we draw up a play for a guy who's clearly been struggling this game? Had a couple drops up to that point, had a fumble up to that point as well. And we draw up a play for Mark Andrews. And of course, he drops it. There's a lapse in concentration. and he drops it. I mean, Lamar Jackson like pump faked it, just like, hey, like, are you ready for this one? I'm about to throw it to you. It's gonna be right on you, you know. And it hit Mark Andrews right in the numbers. And I've never really been a fan of plays like that where you kind of just run a speed out with Lamar Jackson. You take away a whole half of the field and condense it into a very small space, and you just kind of hope things work out. That never really works out for the Ravens, and I hope that Todd Monken kind of moves on from that and lets Lamar Jackson work the entire field on those 2 point conversion type plays. We saw on the 2 point conversion play against the Chiefs in week 1 last year, right? Lamar Jackson had the entire field to work with. He ended up getting it to Isaiah Likely. He was just out of bounds by a scotch, right? Like a half an inch, like a half an inch. But I do think that whenever Isaiah Likely gets back, I would love to see more kind of plays drawn up around the goal line for Isaiah Likely to get in the end zone, because I think this is Mark Andrews' last year as a Raven. So I think that's only right that we start to usher in Isaiah Likely as more into, into that tight end one role. I think it's only right. That's me personally, though. It's me personally. But okay, guys, I think we're gonna go ahead and end it here, just as we're about an hour into the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming out to this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Thank you to all of the donors on this episode of the show. Thank you to all the members on the channel as well. We appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel as well, because there's gonna be a whole lot more Ravens content where this is coming from. Make sure you stay locked into the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel for that. Again, we will be live tomorrow. Don't worry, it'll be before the Eagles and Cowboys games. You guys will get to watch that. We're going to be live before that game, breaking down the Ravens matchup against the Bills in depth, in detail, right? And then, of course, we're going to give our picks. We're going to give our parlays as well. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. We're going to be going live tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you guys stay tuned in for that. So with that being said, love you guys. Don C says stay positive, test negative, and always, never, ever forget to call God. It's been another episode of Quiet Storm Sports with your boy Sutton Def. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.